Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on the most influential sports talk show in America. This 21st day of August. Listen, folks, a lot of stuff in the news today. Aaron Rodgers, now they're saying he will play this preseason game. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Jonathan Taylor, the Colts, this broke this afternoon, have granted a request for him to seek out a trade. There's going to be some roadblocks there. I'll get into that. Daryl Morey and James Harden, two things can be true. I'll get into that about their feud and whatnot as well. Also, Joe Mixon, got a story about him and more. Let's go ahead and take our first and only break. We'll hit the ground running. I'll be back here in 49 seconds here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Let's start off with this Jonathan Taylor. Now, the Colts have been back and forth with Jonathan Taylor. He wants a contract extension, and the Colts, I guess they're not right money-wise on that. Jim Irsay being the Colts here. There's been some injuries last year with Taylor. He's played 11 games last year, had some kind of back injury, claims to be fully healthy now. And so the Colts now, I just reported this afternoon that Adam Schefter is saying, yes, he's willing to seek a trade. Now, really good player, former second-round pick out of Wisconsin. Really good year in 21. Again, like I said last year, only played 11 games. Can block, can catch the ball in the backfield, run between the tackles. Will be 24 years old. He's an ideal player, but from what I'm getting at, he's going to have to pass a physical. Teams are going to have to run him through the gauntlet as far as physicality is concerned. And now I'm reading that the Colts are wanting a first-round pick for him, and also there could be a money issue. There's multiple reports saying that this could simply be a money issue with his extension. There's been talks about Tom Pelestrio of NFL Network saying that they would want something similar to what the Panthers got four draft picks, including a second rounder from the 49ers to get Christian McCaffrey at the trade deadline last year. And also they're saying that they want a first-round pick, and plus the fact that he's wanting a big contract extension. He's coming up on this contract year. So there's a lot of what would you say? It is a lot of blocks in a row, whatever you want to call it, hurdles to overcome. But I'll say this. That's what you want. What you get and what you want are two different things. All right. My deal is, listen, Miami wanted Dalvin Cook. He was from Miami. Miami couldn't quite match the money, my guess is, with the Jets. Dalvin Cook went over to the Jets. Now, if you just want to cut a little inch off the money, I think this Miami team would be an ideal fit. Raheem Mostert, an injury-plagued player. I was looking. Miami would be one of the teams interested potentially, according to NFL Network. Also, you want to throw in a team like who else? They mentioned the Bears. The Cardinals, they're going to be a dumpster fire. Going to get a really high draft pick next year. I wouldn't want to go to the Cardinals if I'm Jonathan Taylor. The Patriots mentioned as one of them. They just signed Zeke Elliott. Tampa Bay Bucks, they were mentioned as one of them. They're also going to be in the tank as well. So it would be between the Bears, who got Khalif Herbert, and of course it would be between, now the Bears could pay the big money. They've got a lot of cap space now. They're going to have even more cap space next year. Their general manager's done a good job there, but do you really want to go to the Bears with Justin Fields? You're just iffy there. So I think it's between the Bears, who have made tremendous upgrades, and they've got the money, and that Miami team where he can totally flip. I mean, with Tua there, a spot on Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle there, and that zone running scheme, he can totally flourish there. Maybe they could get close, a lot cheaper, no taxes from Florida to Illinois. I much rather live in Miami than Chicago. I would like that running scheme there in Miami. It would be ideal to put Jonathan Taylor, who's just 24, Pickles. He's just 24 in that system. He would be the man, and my contract would be it would be a fair contract of around 12 to 15 million a year. Plus you put some incentives in there, make it up to 17.5, something like that with incentives. He could potentially hit catch rate incentives. He can hit zone rushing incentives per se with this team. But just the 40-year anniversary of the great movie, one of my favorites, of Scarface, 13.5. Forget about 13.5. Tony talking to Sosa. And then Sosa said, "What do you suggest that's reasonable, Tony?" And then they come up with the deal. I think they're not going to get that first-round pick. Forget about the first-round pick. Probably not going to get a second-round pick, because you're going to have to pay him a lot of money in a big if he can pass a physical. And that's a big if. If he can pass a physical, you go through this guy like with a fine-tooth comb. A third-round pick is more than fair from the Dolphins to get Jonathan Taylor, because the Colts are looking at Anthony Richardson as one of their main rushers coming into this year. He's going to be a dual threat. It's not going to be big with the running back here. This is going to be the Eagles offense 2.0 with Shane Steichen. Remember, they got rid of their Miles Sanders. He's with the Carolina Panthers now. So it's not a really running back. It's really about the quarterback. It's about the read option. It's about the blocking up front for the Colts. So that's what they're thinking. Now, again, Miami, you saw the upgrades that the Jets have done. You didn't get Jalen Ramsey's going to be out. You're coming in a little bit shorthanded than you expected to be. He's going to be out until December. Why not make a big splash, go after that running back you know that can hold it down and keep that heat off of Tua? If Tua plays 16, 17 games, Miami wins this division, even without Jalen Ramsey, bar none. I mean, they are that good right now. Remember, they've got a new defensive coordinator there down in Miami. There's so many ways this team can beat you. They've got the former coordinator from the Denver Broncos. This would be really an ideal situation for me, particularly. I would think so. Now, that being said, wouldn't be one bit surprised if he's a Chicago Bear. But if he goes to Tampa or if he goes to Arizona, it's all about the money. It's all, and I understand. Listen, short life, want to make the money, but I can't tell you how many players that I hear after these contracts are over with that just took the money and they say, "Oh man, I wish I would have. I was miserable for 4 years and so, or 3 years and so and so." For example, Albert Hainsworth, he says he was miserable in Washington, took the extra money instead of just staying in Tennessee, a system. So you really got to think, okay, is it a system that I like to run under? Can we be somewhat competitive for a championship? If you're and obviously you want to get properly compensated, but you also want to be somewhat happy as well, Pickles, if you ask me. That being said, may not find a partner. I mean, we are here a couple of weeks away. Next Saturday is full-fledged college football. Then the Sunday after that, technically the Thursday after that, the following Thursday after Labor Day, it's the NFL. So you basically got about 2 weeks to prepare. Something could happen. Crazier things have happened. What if a major injury happens? I get it. But plus Josh Jacobs, he's going to come back for the Raiders. So Taylor would be the last shoe to drop as far as unhappy running backs or situations get delighted. But the Colts with Jim Irsay, I can see him wanting to get out. But I don't know what the Colts are willing to accept to get rid of him. Maybe a third and maybe a later fourth-round pick if he plays so many games. There's some way to work it out. He's not going to get a first or second, in my opinion. In my opinion, I do not think that is going to happen. Okay, another little pearl here. Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Rodgers not going to play. Rodgers not going to play now. Okay, now Rodgers is going to play the last 3 season game. And I'm telling you, this is what I'm thinking here. They're saying, okay, we've got Dalvin Cook here. Speaking of running backs, still no sign of Dwayne Brown coming back at left tackle. This is his first preseason game Aaron Rodgers has played in since 2018. I didn't have a problem with it because, listen, if you're coming into a new system, okay, you want to get some live reps with real competition coming at you. The joint practices are one thing, but you want to get some live reps here with this competition here. Luckily, he is with the offensive coordinator he's worked with at Green Bay. For those of you that goes back and just think back to the Green Bay playbook with Aaron Jones. I mentioned this last week, Pickles, between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They had their problems up in Green Bay with the offensive line. There was a big chunk of time there that the Packers were out of a right tackle and a left tackle. David Bakhtiari and Eldon Jenkins on the right side. Rodgers had to do this cross the field type of where the leading receiver was often, Pickles, more than once. You know this and I know this. Aaron Jones was the leading receiver for the Packers for a time period there, okay? This is what he's thinking. Until they get Dwayne Brown and some blocking up front, he's trying to develop some chemistry with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, for fantasy owners in this offense, could have 6-8 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown receiving. That is not an exaggeration. He's thinking, I'm going to use this cat like Aaron Jones here because we're not going to be able to block anybody coming up front, and I'm not getting blasted by Von Miller in week 1. I've got to set up some chemistry here with him where I'm throwing that ball laterally at the line of scrimmage. And then I'm going to use both of the by the way, I'm just about finished with Al Borges' book, former offensive coordinator for the Auburn Tigers. Now, sent him a message to bring him back on Wednesday. Back in 2004, offensive coordinator. He used Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown moved his guys all over the place. He's seen my message. He hasn't answered it yet. So, Coach, if you want to come on, there's your invitation, okay? But I was watching some of the games and finishing up reading his book, and the way he used Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown, two guys in the backfield at the same time. He would lateral move Ronnie Brown to the outside and look like he's going to throw with Jason. I can't remember the quarterback's name now. It's just slipping my mind. Means no, never mind. Fake him and then pitch inside zone, which means you're blocking air. Give to Cardinal Williams, or fake it and go the other way and throw the ball downfield to Cadillac Williams. They're thinking something like an Al Borges, the way he worked Cardinal Williams and Jason Campbell. Thank you. Cardinal Williams, Jason Campbell, and Ronnie Brown. That's what Rodgers is thinking. Now, this is going to be terrible for Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis and Alan Lazard, but this is until they get some some pass blocking on that offensive line. Again, Aaron Rodgers was sacked 6 out of 10 dropbacks in the scrimmage they played against Tampa last week in that scrimmage. So they're in DEFCON 1 internally. I can't wait to see how they handled that coming up on Hard Knocks tomorrow, which has been really good. I like Rodgers. I like this new Aaron Rodgers taking accountability, engaging with his teammates. I wish he would have did this, took the major pay cut in Green Bay, could have held some better players in there when he was up there. Maybe they would have a Super Bowl and knocked out Tampa that year and maybe won the Super Bowl over a Kansas City back in 2020. That's over with. That's water under the bridge. Now he's thinking, I've got to build some kind of intermediate passing game with these cats and get through that first gauntlet of 6 games and not have a calf strain or a busted thumb from getting popped by one of these defensive linemen, by a Micah Parsons or Von Miller. That's the first 2 games you got to play well of a pass rush. Right now, I'm telling you, folks, those games right there are losses. If the Jets go in with this offensive line, no Dwayne Brown, and a banged-up Micaiah Becton, they're not going to beat neither one of those teams. They're playing the Cowboys on a short week, and then they open up on Monday night. Yeah, they'll be at home. So that's why this game is huge. It's just a preseason game to you and me. But to Rodgers, he's thinking, I've got to get some timing down with these running backs because these running backs are going to help me win the game. And quite frankly, that's what he did a lot of when he was with his last year with the Green Bay Packers. If you think about the pass rush when they were playing well with Philadelphia, Hassan Reddick was on fire. Their offense came from passing the ball to the running backs down the field. Remember that Monday night game, Pickles, against the Eagles this past year? So Rodgers is getting what he's basically saying. I've been dealing with this for a couple of years because Bakhtiari's been hurt with the Green Bay Packers and that offensive line. He's going to be 40 years old this year. So this is a big game. This is a very big game. And he might not say it RELAX, but really internally he's thinking, man, I've got to get a quick release. I'm going to get blasted and I'm going to get hurt early. Ironically, like Brett Favre did when he was traded to the Green Bay Packers from the Green Bay Packers to the New York Jets. They were 8-3. Remember, then he gets hurt. Everything went downhill. They lost their second-round pick, and then he didn't even play that last year. Or he just played there 1 year, and then he goes on to the Minnesota Vikings. And as I was telling the Mac and Jacks show the other day, listen, this thing right here is a case study. If you know, see what they could have done, what Joe Douglas could have done, not to play Monday morning quarterback here, but what he could have done if he had communication with Aaron Rodgers' agent, okay, and he knew at some point they're going to nail down this trade with the Green Bay Packers, and he knew that Dwayne Brown is injured and 38 years old, and he knew that Mekhi Becton did not like playing right tackle, and he's also coming off of an injury. Orlando Brown was available. The left tackle from Kansas City, they let him walk. Ben Powers, the best blocking guard from the Baltimore Ravens, was also available. He signed with McCliskey was available. The right tackle from the San Francisco 49ers. What they should have done when you got a guy at that age, you got to put extra amount of effort into the offensive line. He's not as athletic as he was 10, 12 years ago. He is not Josh Allen. He is not Lamar Jackson. Those type of athletes. This guy is 1 to 2 steps, throw, and get rid of the ball. He's not going to run around all over the place and make those big throws. He could back in 2011, okay? We're talking 12 years ago, Pickles. So they should have went out, bet big, get those guys in there, okay? Get that offensive line squared away. Don't worry about the wish list. Just tell Rodgers, hey, listen, we got the best offensive line we could possibly get. Then go out and get another receiver somehow. But you already got Garrett Wilson. He's Offensive Rookie of the Year. But that's what they should have done. Now you're holding your breath on a 38-year-old left tackle, and you're hoping that Dalvin Cook catches 6, 7, 8 balls a game. And maybe they fake a pass to him, and you get a long run out of Breece Hall for a touchdown. You get a special team stop, and your defense plays lights out, and you're winning a lot of 21-17 games, right, Pickles? You're playing field position and defense. But I'm just a truth serum, guys. It's not looking good for the New York Jets as of right now. I hope everything does work out for Rodgers because, again, I think it's a great story. I mean, I like the Jets. I mean, they got good passion. It's a good fan base. Like Rodgers, Jack Hirsch, I do a show with on Sunday. Big Jets fan. When I was living up in New York, I was pulling for the Jets when the Titans wasn't doing nothing back in 2002 with the Wayne Corbett, Vinny Testaverde, Curtis Martin days, and all that bunch. But, you know, it feels like the same old Jets, right? But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, and all righty then. One more football. Listen, folks, hang around. I've got a really good story and a really good take coming up on Daryl Morey and James Harden. That's an interesting story. I've got a lot of sound there for that. But, okay, another NFL story. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon should be counting his blessings. Joe Mixon, 28-year-old running back, number 28, how ironic, out of Cincinnati. This guy has played a number of years, got a second contract. He was a second-round pick some years ago. They were on the verge of cutting him, takes a pay cut, stays with this team, and his name was in the news. His name was in the news for an off-the-field incident. This is from Awful Announcement. It says, the embattled running back has dealt with one off-field issue after another in 2023. Back in April, Mixon was charged with aggravated menacing. A charge has been acquitted of after police claim he pointed a gun at a woman and threatened to shoot her. Additionally, Mixon is not the suspect in a criminal investigation. The shooting of a teenager who was formerly his next-door neighbor. I've been reading about this story on and off all year. And, however, he's facing a lawsuit from the teenage boy's family who is seeking damages from Mixon and the individual who was charged with the count of felony assault after the individual shot the boy in the foot while standing in Mixon's backyard in March. So, no sports network apologized for recklessly faulting the Cincinnati Bengals for the incident, a dangerous accusation that has since been reported as false. It appears Mixon's legal troubles are behind him. He remained quiet as the legal process played out, but following Sunday's practice, Mixon declined to speak to a group of reporters, according to ESPN's Ben Baby. He then declared that he would be boycotting questions from specific reporters from following outlets: Sports Illustrated, the Cincinnati Enquirer, Pro Football Network, and ESPN. That's the same Ben Baby guy there. Mixon said that the questions from those outlets were not happening. He cited disrespectful behavior throughout. When asked to expand, he's perceived as disrespectful. He's like, you know how. Listen, they're just doing their job, man. This stuff has been in the news since early this year. Alleged. I've been reading about this Joe Mixon report. Plus, Joe Mixon feels like he's lost somewhat of a step here. Got a little banged up last year. I thought they should have went after Jahmyr Gibbs from the should have released him for play, not really for off the field stuff, but for play issues, and went after Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama as a rookie. But obviously they didn't do that. They went on and kept the guy. You know, they kept him in, and I think the other guy, Samaje Perine or whatever. But again, this guy, the NFL said this. This was to be said. This was a story I read from the NFL about a month or two ago. Well, maybe give or take, maybe 3 months ago back. Basically, the NFL was looking into, and I think this is the owners and the commissioner, of looking into players passed in college, okay? This guy, now he was, apologetic. He got suspended for a year in college, but it is on video. He punched a woman in her face and broke bones in her face in 4 places. And you say, well, what's that sounds really bad, but, it did happen in college. Listen, Ray Rice never played again after that. He never, once that video got out, they initially gave him 2 games, then the outpouring, then the pressure, then he was suspended indefinitely, then the Ravens cut him, and nobody signed Ray Rice. This was technically worse than the Ray Rice. Ray Rice knocked his woman down and out for a second in an elevator, but this guy broke a woman's jaw. Broke bones in a woman's jaw, okay? And didn't really hear. I don't know if he got on probation or whatever, but either way, he was later drafted in the 2nd round. And he's played he's got 2 contracts out of the NFL. He's lucky to have anything. If this new rule goes into place, which has just been talked about, it's not been voted on, where you can look in and punish players for college incidents. Punish players for college incidents, what I think is BS, because if a guy pays his dues in college, he should get an opportunity. I'm all about second chances. Trust me. I mentioned Henry Ruggs thing was horrific. A woman burned up in the car. He was doing 156 miles an hour. He is sentenced from 3 to 10 years in prison in Nevada. I say if the guy can still catch the ball when he's done doing his time, he pays all his fines, I think he should have a chance just like Mixon. But Mixon beat all this stuff out. He's dealing with the civil suit. He's wanting to take it out on reporters. But my thing, he needs to be grateful for the opportunity, because if those old rules would have went into play, and there's a chance maybe he gets suspended his first year. He's lucky to have a job anywhere, because it wasn't too long ago from the time he was drafted to the time Ray Rice hit this woman, never got picked up. You could say, well, maybe Rice was on the backside. He was 30 plus years old. That had something to do with it too. But, the knockout, but this guy does it. but he's 21 years old, fresh legs coming into the NFL. Yes, the NFL is hypocritical. A lot of it is timing and optics about the NFL. And can you help this team win, Pickles, right? Pickles said she'll let his lawyer do the talking, and it is bad press. Yeah. So, Joe Mixon, thank your lucky stars. Be humble. That being said, if he don't want to talk to the media, I think there's obligations with the NFL. He'll probably take the heat from the fines, and he'll do his thing. He knows he's on a potential Super Bowl team this year. He said it. And the fact that Joe Burrow looks to be healthy, coming back pretty strong from that calf injury, that very well may be true, folks. Wow. Well, that's a mouthful, ain't it, Pickles? That is a mouthful. Okay. I've got a James Harden story. Then I'll come back to the NFL. This story is interesting. Okay. Doing this business, I do not like to be narrative guy. I do not like to be absolute when it comes to things. You'll hear me say the phrase, two things can be true at once. Okay. James Harden didn't take his career seriously the first 10, 12 years of his career. Yes, that can be true. James Harden has been more of a team player the last 2 years of his career. That also can be true. James Harden had no business dogging out a general manager in China. The one that called out China for the right things, Daryl Morey, that can be true. James Harden probably right about Daryl Morey, who is overrated as an executive like nobody's business, and Harden is probably telling the truth. So let's go to let's go back to this. So he is saying that if he opted into this contract, this $35 million contract, that Daryl Morey of the 76ers assured him he was going to trade him. I believe Harden, because I think Daryl Morey is full of crap. I think he takes big swings. He talks a big game. He leads into analytics. And here, let's just go back and read the story first. Okay. All right. This is from The Athletic. And I want to make sure and get this all right before I, assume anything. All right. Okay. Now the NBA is investigating this thing. Okay. As a part of the NBA, this is from The Athletic, Sharm Sharamian. The guy's been on the ball here lately, somewhat. It's part of the NBA investigation into he's a liar comment. Philadelphia 76ers star James Harden told the league investigators he was referring to president of basketball operations Daryl Morey, telling Harden he would trade him following the $35.6 million opt-in for this year coming into next year. The 76ers now say they expect to keep Harden. Harden is reiterated his desire not to play for the 76ers during an event in China August 14th as a part of a marketing tour for Adidas. Said, quote, Daryl Morey's a liar, and I will never be a part of the organization as a part of Harden. Harden told the crowd in attendance in front of numerous cameras, let me say it again, Daryl's a liar, and I will never be a part of the organization that he's part of. Later in the week, Harden told KOHU 11 News in Houston that he believes his relationship with Morey and 76ers is over. The backstory confirmed on August 12th that Morey and the 76ers decided to end trade talks involving Harden, and they are expecting him to report to training camp late next month. However, a source close to Harden, who is not authorized to speak publicly, on the matter, told the Athletic that Harden's plans have not changed of his mid-July trade request. Listen, Daryl Morey gets in and out of these big deals constantly, and he is, what's up, man? What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you, Jeremy. Good to see you. Listen, here's some of Morey's history here. Truth of the matter is, he's a guy that makes these big moves. He talks the big game. And, he almost got a championship. And here's a story from the Ringer. Championship in 2018 with Chris Paul and James Harden there. Of course, Paul gets hurt. They lose game 7. I'll give you that. But he's also a guy that traded for Westbrook. He's also a guy that brought Harding to the 76ers. Like my dad would say, he's pretty much all hat, no cattle. This is from the Ringer. Here's another story on him. It says, Morey's teams with Houston Rockets, Philadelphia have won 62% of regular season games over 16 seasons, leading the front offices, which ranks 4th all-time executives with 15 years experience behind only R.C. Buford. That is of the Spurs, Red Auerbach, obviously the legendary Celtics, Jerry West, not even in the league with none of those guys. According to the data provided by Basketball Reference, Morey's one of the winningest general managers in history, but all the front offices have something he don't, and that's rings. The closest thing, of course, I mentioned that game 7 in 2018, but he big into this analytics things where they missed 20. They lost that game because they missed 27 straight three-pointers, and Charles Barkley was right about Daryl Morey back 8 years ago. Listen to what Barkley said about Daryl Morey, the guy who talks a big game, but very rarely delivers. Listen up. This is going back to all those big moves that he patted himself on the back about the Houston Rockets in the past.
For wearing the mic, Daryl Morey, the Rockets GM, tweeting that the best part of being at a TNT game live is it's easy to avoid Charles spewing misinformed, biased vitriol disguised as entertainment. I have a feeling Daryl wasn't very kind of you describing Houston as a bad defensive team. In fact, you said worst in the league defensive team.
A team that's going to make the playoffs. They're awful defensively.
But they're if you look at the metrics on the thing, they're like number 5 in the league defensively.
They're not. Just because you got good stats doesn't mean you're a good team defensively. They're not a good defensive team. They gave up 118 points. No good team gives up 118 points. I'm not worried about Daryl Morey. He's one of those idiots who believe in analytics. He went out and got James Harden and got Dwight Howard. They're going to tell me that's analytics. Then he went out and got Trevor Ariza. But then he went out and got Josh Smith. So, first of all, I've always believed analytics was crap. And I never mentioned the Rockets as a legitimate contender because they're not. And listen, I wouldn't know Daryl Morey if he walked in this room right now.
Listen, there's some truth to that. The whole 3-ball phenomenon, he leaned into it. Like I said, they missed 27 threes and lost that game. Let's not talk about this debacle with the he brought in Doc Rivers. He didn't work out. He's one of these guys that gets all that ink, but he very, very rare delivers on anything. The Warriors, yes, they did it, but it wasn't working. You have to adjust sometimes, and teams are getting away from the 3-ball. If you look at the last few champions from the Toronto Raptors in 2018, mid-range shooting team. You look at the previous champions, the Denver Nuggets, mid-range shooting team, bring it back to big men. Look at the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis in that group, mid-range. And Morey was still pushing that 3-ball revolution, And also, I read this story in the Ringer that this guy he doesn't. He don't pay any of his traffic tickets. Traffic tickets got so bad on him, he thought he was going to possibly lose his license. He trades his car in. He makes a deal with Lexus so they would pay his traffic tickets, and he would just buy another Lexus. He's one of them guys. He don't finish anything. He's the guy that's got the big idea, but he don't know how to execute it, and he don't want to be held accountable for when the big idea don't work out. That's my thing about Daryl Morey. So, like I said, two things can be right. Harden's a problem, but it was his big idea to bring Harden in. He knew who Harden was when Harden was at Houston. He knew Harden had his problems at Houston, a frequent goer of strip clubs and whatnot. He knew about that, but he brought him over. It's his big idea. Now he can't get rid of him. Now he wants to keep him. I probably wants to keep him for a trade chip around the trade deadline coming up in February, March, whenever it is this year. And Harden wants to start over from scratch in a new environment. And Morey probably told him that, probably because he just comes off as a guy who talks a big game and never delivers on what he says. And finds a way to get out of not being held accountable for his nonsense. And Pickle says they won't get what they want for Harden. Why would they? He's a 30-something. He had one great game in the playoffs that stuck out. I think it was that game 1 against Boston where he had like 41 points. He had flashbacks to the great James Harden of the past. And then he just goes back and beats James Harden again. So as you can see, Daryl Morey, so now the league is looking into it. So now I guess the moral to the story is get everything in writing, right? Get everything in writing. Some kind of side note here. But part of me believes Harden because I think from everything I read and hear about Morey, he just reminds me of people I grew up with who are just full of BS, man. They're constantly talk a big game and very rarely deliver. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, back to the NFL. Listen, the Raiders. Speaking of bad organizations, every dog has his day, huh, Frank? Every dog has its day. The Raiders have seemed to have found a potential starting quarterback. It's 2 games in. Fourth round pick. This Aiden O'Connell from the Raiders. 4th round pick from Purdue. This guy has been almost as flawless as you. Let me see if I can find some of his stats here. I want to say, well, what did he have? Okay, so the other day he had 1 touchdown. He had 15 for 18. This was against the 49ers. I think this may have been in week 1. 15 for 18, 1 touchdown, 117 quarterback rating. Got sacked 1 time. Then game 2 against the Rams. I think this was over the weekend. He was 11 out of 18, 163, 127 quarterback rating, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Guy's got a good release. Probably think about all these players that have been picked. Let's start off with the top guy here. Bryce Young. Who was the second guy? Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, C.J. Stroud was the second guy. Excuse me. It was Bryce Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis for Tennessee in the second round, who didn't even play last week. He's already hurt again, Pickle, so I don't know what to think about him. He was hurt at Kentucky. He hurt his foot at Kentucky last year. He got hurt and practiced against the scrimmages this week against the Minnesota Vikings, and he didn't even play. He didn't even play in the game. It was all Malik Willis. So that's Will Levis. Then you throw in Stetson Bennett, who's had a pretty good camp too. But this guy has had a better preseason and a better camp than all of them. Aiden O'Connell. Keep that name in mind. You say, well, why do you keep saying that? I said, listen, folks. You know, and I know, kind of like the guys, the two old men from Trading Places, right? And two old guys with Eddie Murphy. You know, and I know that Jimmy Garoppolo's he's not going to play 17. He's never played 17 games. He's going to get hurt. And Brian Hoyer is barely an NFL backup. And the only reason they've even got Brian Hoyer on that team is because Josh McDaniels knows Hoyer, because he's worked with him back in his Patriot days. He's one of these guys, carries a clipboard, like my dad would say, milkshake drinking guy, early to the meetings, knows all the plays, knows the verbiage, works with the other quarterbacks. But this Aiden O'Connell, this guy, mark my word, more likely than not, this team is not going to go anywhere this year. I think they can possibly trade Devontae Adams this year. And I think this cat right here could be one bright spot for the Vegas Raiders. I think he will probably start at some point this season. Aiden O'Connell, 4th-round pick from Purdue. Now you say, who else came from Purdue? Hey, Drew Brees. Drew Brees, 6-foot-tall, 2nd-round pick, came from Purdue University to the then San Diego Chargers. So watch out for this guy. I've been hearing a lot about him. He played really well. You say, well, it's just preseason. That's what we said about Dak Prescott. Also a 4th-round pick. And Tony Romo never got his job back. You know, that's what we said about Tony Romo. He wasn't even drafted, but he was doing well in the preseason. And he just kept doing well, and they finally put him in there. Russell Wilson. People don't realize Wilson, I think he was like a 3rd-round pick. Either way, that means no, never mind. They had already paid another quarterback from Green Bay. They already paid him. Not a big lot of money, but they did pay him a decent check. He was supposed to be the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. This guy's having a good preseason. This player out of Wisconsin, Russell Wilson, becomes Russell Wilson. So this guy could be that guy. Now, it's been 2 games. There's also Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub was really good in the preseason, and he was decent in the regular season. But once he started throwing interceptions with Houston Pickles, it went all downhill. So it's going the other way. But he's a guy that's really caught my eye in the preseason there. Also, I'll say this. Now, this guy's pretty far down on the depth chart. UCLA player, I've watched him a couple of times. Pretty accurate. Kind of reminds me of Teddy Bridgewater a little bit. Don't make a lot of mistakes. Smart guy. His name is Dorian Thompson-Robertson, rookie from Cleveland. Somebody may make a trade for him. I mentioned Stetson Bennett. Bennett's only listed as 5'11". There's a good chance he can play because of Matthew Stafford's injury history. They got a lot of holes in their offensive line. They're going to be giving up a lot of points on defense. I've heard that they're going to have late draft picks, rookie draft picks playing in their secondary. Late round pick rookies in their secondary this year. Remember Jalen Ramsey? He's now with the Miami Dolphins. Apparently, Sean McVay's strategy was we're going to go all offense. And by the way, I heard Cooper Kupp's going to be back, by the way. They're going to go all offense. We're going to lean in that side of the ball. Yeah, you got a 33-year-old Aaron Donald there with the Rams, but that still doesn't mean that the defense is going to be good. He's one guy. He don't play the back end. He's not an edge rusher. So Stafford could very well get hurt again. Stetson Bennett could also be playing this year. And maybe they found their guy. But it's still early for Bennett, Still early for Bennett. We'll have to see. Not as much as I like this Aiden O'Connell. Other players here I wanted to mention. Let me see if I got this cut here from my man Rich Ferris here. I think I have a soundbite from Rich talking about a guy and running back for Tennessee to watch out for. Listen up.
Put maybe Julius Chestnut, undrafted guy that probably ahead of Haskins at this point. He's really showed out not only as a third, fourth string running back, but also on special teams. He's one of their kick returners.
This guy, Julius Chestnut. Now, not Joey Chestnut, not the hot dog eating champion. Julius Chestnut, undrafted player for the Tennessee Titans. That was on Wednesday's program last week. My man Rich Ferris here from 104.5 The Zone. That's the Cumulus radio station that follows the flagship of the Tennessee Titans. For the record, Chestnut had 13 carries, 98 yards, touchdown, and he called a touchdown here. He's talking about Hassan Haskins, that he would be he would play him over Haskins. And, of course, Tennessee's got Tajay Spears as well. So when you've got guys like that come up out of nowhere and rise up, that's another reason I do not see a team like the Indianapolis Colts getting a first-round pick for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, the Titans get a pick for Chestnut. I don't know. They may cut Haskins, because they're going to keep Spears, the Tulane rookie who's playing really well, had a great camp, just looked great, man. Hits the tackles. So now Tennessee's got a 3. And plus, who knows if Derrick Henry also may get hurt. He's getting up in age. He's a power runner. So that's another guy. Plus, I was reading for Pro Football Focus here. One of the reporters saying this week could be a big trade week in the NFL for back roster plays like that. So look for something like that to happen. If I'm Tennessee, I maybe hold all these guys, not unless somebody offers me something big for them. Because you get an undrafted free agent on your team, he's playing for pennies on the dollar. The guy can really run. They got a nice feel for the game. Hey, there was a stat here. I think Colin Cowherd said this stat many a times. Half of this league is undrafted. Not everybody's these big superstars. Remember, you still got to fill out a roster. You got special teams. You got situational players. It's 50. There's only 22 starters. Teams have 53 men rosters. So you got to keep all that in mind, folks. Yeah. Chestnut made special teams. He as good as that guy's been, Pickles. I would put him in certain games and see if he's not better than Spears. He seems a little bigger than Spears. And Haskins, if it's up to me, there's a good chance Haskins, their 4th-round pick, who's been backing up Henry for 2 years, he may be on the road, and this guy may have beaten him out, this Julius Chestnut here. So, anyways, folks, that's all I've got tonight. Now, again, I've reached out to Al Borges, and he saw my message, but he still hasn't got back to me. Maybe he's got something planned that night. I'll send him a follow-up message and see if he wants to come on Wednesday, maybe Thursday. There's a chance, I'm still debating it, that I could be working Friday. I had to let Carlos know. Y'all probably put a rerun in here. I'm trying to do something now so I won't have to deal with any extra work on Labor Day weekend. There's some pretty good games on Labor Day. Here's the thing about college coming up, not this coming up weekend, but this weekend you got week 0, which is Navy and Notre Dame. I mean, it's not really a big game. I think USC's playing, but there's no big games on this weekend. There's college football on this weekend, but there's no big games on this weekend. Now, next weekend, the really official weekend of college football, you do have Florida at Utah. Now, that'll be a good game, but it's going to be on Thursday. A lot of us going to be working. And but there will be some good games on, ironically, Pickles, they'll be on Saturday morning at 12 o'clock Eastern time, 12 noon Eastern time. TCU against Deion Sanders' Colorado team, and his son Schroeder Sanders is going to be playing there. They're 20-point favorites against Colorado, and that's playing at TCU. Remember, they was in the national championship game last year. Max Duggan left there. He's with the Chargers, Pickles, but I think he got hurt. He was supposed to be in the backup there. Had a pretty good camp, but he's been hurt, and he didn't get a chance to play. But that'll be a good game. Florida State and LSU, that's like Sunday night. That's not even on Saturday. Miami are, I think Sunday, later on, Saturday night, you got South Carolina, North Carolina, Drake May with North Carolina, Spencer Rattler for South. That'll be a good game. That'll be a pretty good game to watch. Tennessee will play Virginia. But the big dogs, I mean, Georgia's playing UT Martin, not a very good game there. Alabama's playing Middle Tennessee State, nothing big there. Ohio State, now I think they're playing at Indiana. That'll be a decent game. Also came out today, and I was going to ask Al about this. It looks like that Michigan, to be on the safe side, they went on a suspended Jim Harbaugh eternally for 3 games. So he's going to be out there, but they're not playing anybody, the 4th game, they got to go at Rutgers, and Rutgers is getting better. I think Harbaugh's put a big target on Michigan's back, saying we're going to get more players drafted than that Georgia team did a few years ago, which is like 15 or something. He's putting a lot of pressure. Everybody's talking about national championship. We feel like they're just putting a big bullseye on the Michigan Wolverine team. So, but anyway, there's some decent games out there. It should be a lot better for week 1. But I'm looking for a lot of good ones, though, are early. They're at 12 Eastern time on that Saturday, and I don't think I'm going to volunteer that way. Michigan should let Al Borges coach while Harbaugh is out. Al Borges covers the Michigan games. He's connected with Michigan. He used to be the offensive coordinator under Michigan back in the day when they had Robertson there. I forgot that guy's name now, but he says this guy, Robertson, he never did do film work. The little quarterback, very athletic, used to play there about 10 years ago. Guy didn't do any film study, so that's why he didn't last. But Borges, he watches every play. He has a podcast. He breaks down every play of the Michigan team. So he predicted the last 2 years. He said Michigan will beat Ohio State, and he was right. So I'm going to follow up with him. Hopefully he can come on Wednesday. If not, I got plenty of stuff to talk about, folks. Trust me. There is a lot of stuff, storylines going wrong in the college and the professional games. Okay? So I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Sports Scope. Please, if you like the show, please share the show. Excuse me. Man, that's a mouthful. Have a good night, everybody.